Hi, it's Suzanne from the Marks Group again with this month's installment of What's New with Zoho CRM. And this month we're going to talk about the new customization user interface. It's just so much better, so much easier to work with. So I'm going to take you through it and just show you how to do customizations with the new interface. All right, we're going to go into Zoho. Okay, so here I am in my home screen. If you're unfamiliar with the old customization interface, this will be helpful too, because then you can learn how to do customizations. So I'm going to go into setup, and I do want to mention, as always, we have the question and answer, I can speak today, panel up. So if you're watching this live, feel free to type in any questions, and I will get to them at the end of the demonstration, or if I see them pop up, I will address them. Okay, so to get to this customization area, we're going to go to the setup link in the upper right-hand corner. And then we're going to go to customization. And whereas before, you had modules, fields, layouts, you had everything here, and you'd have to go into each one at a time. Now with the new interface, I can just go into modules and I can do everything from there. Okay, so here I am in modules. And so the first thing I want to show you is, before, I think it was called Customize Modules. So now it's called Organize Modules. That's the button that you click on. And you still have that same interface to choose which modules you want to have available to you in the in the tabs across the top. So in here, it's the same interface. Like I said, if I'm not using forecasts, I can take that off. And then it won't be up in my navigation area. So same way, and you can reorganize these two. If I wanted to put campaigns up with leads, I can just move that up. So I can just use these controls to move that around. Same as it was before, just a different place to get into it. So I'm going to cancel out of this. Okay, so to open up now the editor for a module, let's go into leads. So notice when I hover over leads, I get this little ... here. So I'm going to open that. If I click edit, that's going to open the editor, which I can get to by just clicking leads, or I can rename, or I can set permissions. And then certain modules have extra special things that you can do. So for leads, you can go right into convert lead mapping or map dependency fields. So let's just go ahead and open up the editor. So again, this is the new part of the interface. If you ever used it before, you know that you either had to go into fields or layout. So if you were in layout and you wanted to change the options for a pick list, you had to cancel out a layout, go into bounce over into fields, change the field, and come back into layout. It was kind of a little cumbersome. So they've created this new interface. It's hugely improved, and now you can do all of that in one shot. So now in this editor, I can add fields. I can change my layout, and I can deal with sections, again, all in one editor. So let's just step through a couple things. So let's first go through adding a new field. So all I do is I choose here which type of field I want. So let's say I want to do a pick list. I grab the pick list and I drag that over and I put it on the form where I want it to be. So I'm just going to put it over here. Now, just bringing that over opens up the property view, and I can give this a name. I could spell, and then I can assign options. So there's a couple different ways to assign options for a pick list. One is I can just type them in. It comes, with these two default. I can edit those to be something different. And I can edit that. And then you see as I'm popping up here, my plus and minus signs are popping up. So as I hover over, I can insert another option here. I can get rid of an option if I decide, no, I don't need that. I can type over it if I want to change it. And then I can add one at the end of the list. I can also add options in bulk. So if you have a list of something already typed somewhere, you can click that and then just copy and paste right in here instead of having to do these separate ones. So cancel out of that. I can drag these around as well, so I can, shift order if I want. I can, once I get all my options in, I can use this button to sort them alphabetically. Remember, in the old interface, you could there was only a checkbox that said, pick the first one as the default. Here, now you can pick any option as the default value. It doesn't have to be the one on top. You can set this as a required field, and because we're in the lead module, I have this extra little drop down here in the property field where I can choose to also create this field for one of these other 3 records, because if you recall, when you convert a lead record, that information in the lead record flows into these 3 new records. So if you're creating this field for a lead record, and it is intended to flow into 1 or 2 or all 3 of these, then you can quickly create the same field for these 3 records by just clicking these boxes. Now, I will tell you that when you use this, by default, it will just place that new field in the account, contact, and potential record in this position down here. So if you want it in a different position, you'll have to go into those records and change that, and we'll address that in a little bit. But at least you don't have to go through the steps of creating it again. So it's a little bit of a time saver. Other thing I want to show you that's another change, and it's new, is if you're creating, let's say you want to create a field that's country. So instead of having people type in countries, you want to have a select field and have them be able to select countries. That's a lot of countries to type in, or you could go out to the internet and find a list. But there are some sets like that are already predefined. So that's what this button's all about. So I can go ahead and click that and then choose from one of these predefined lists. So I can just choose countries, select them all, and then add the choices to the field. So that automatically adds in all my countries. So let me go back to that and just go over, there's days of the week that are predefined, month of the year, time zones, state, US states, continents, and countries are the predefined fields that you can choose. Okay, I think that's pretty much all of the setting up a pick list field. That's one of the more complex ones to set up. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now we can see it's down here on my field. And I'm going to go in and show you where it's on the other records as well. Okay. So that's adding a field. So again, you can pick any one of these, drag it on to where you want it to be. So for some fields, like for this decimal field, there's default parameters. But now let's say I want to modify a new field that I drag on or any existing field. So notice when I hover over the field, these 2 controls pop up. I have a gear wheel and I have a trash can. Trash can simply removes it to the unused field. So I'm going to click on that and demonstrate that. So it says, yes, remove to unused fields. And I say yes. So what does that mean? Where did it go? It's actually down here in this unused fields area. So over here, I have new fields and I have unused fields. And these are all the fields that are in existence, but are not on the form right now. So to permanently get rid of these fields, I hit the trash can over here, and then we'll delete the field entirely. Okay. The gear wheel will allow you to modify. So let's just click on the gear wheel. So I can say it's marked as required. I can say don't allow duplicates, or I can set up permissions. And here's some permissions that we can set up for the various profiles for that particular field. So that's for a field that doesn't have any options. For pick lists, when I hit field properties, that's going to give me back to this pick list. And I can do all of those modifications or editing that I showed you before. Okay. Okay, so I think we've pretty much covered fields. Again, the key is hover over the field that you want to modify. You can modify or delete it. Okay, so let's talk about sections. Just like before, in the old way of modifying or doing customizations, you could create new sections. It's just a little different user interface now. So now I just take this block right here in my palette off to the left, and I just simply click and drag that onto the form. And now I have a new section. I can give it a name. And I can do two things with this section. I can toggle the number of columns. So right now, there's 2 columns. If I hit this, now there's only one big column. So this is an example of a 2-column section, and then this will be a 1-column section. So you can just toggle between a single or double column with that. And then I can move sections around by just grabbing the top bar, and now I can move it under address. I can move fields within a section and between sections, again, simply by just clicking and dragging. So I'm going to take this demo field that's currently up in my top section lead information, and I'm just going to drag that down and stick that in my demo section. Okay. Oh, okay. I think we went through all that. Okay, so again, it's much easier to navigate around in it because everything's in one editor. You don't have to bounce between 2 different editors, so it's pretty nice. So remember when we were out before we came in here, there was a list of all the modules, and I was showing you some of those special choices. Well, they are still in existence inside the editor right over here. So while I'm in editing, if I wanted to convert lead mapping, actually, all right, let me go ahead and save. That's a very important thing. Once you've made all your changes, make sure you save, and that's going to pop you back out into the main editor. So let me just go back into leads. So now those changes are saved, and they're on the form. I want to bring up convert lead mapping, and this is that that interface. Now this is the same. It's just a different way of getting into it. That interface that defines for all the fields in my lead record where that information flows to the various records that it gets transitioned into, account, contacts, or potentials. So that's the same thing. See my demo field that I created, because I used that drop-down list and I created those fields at the same time, they're automatically mapped in this section. But if you find that you create fields and maybe you create them down an account and you're like, oh, I should really put that up on lead, when you go back and add it into lead, you just have to come in here and map that field from lead down into account. And that's just as simple as using the drop-down list and then hitting save. Okay. So I'm just going to cancel out of that. All right, the other thing I want to show you in here is this is where you get to mapping your field dependencies. That used to be in the field area. So again, this is where I would get into that. And if I click map field dependencies, again, this interface is the same. It's just a different way of getting into it. And I create my field dependency and I save it, and I go back in. So let me go back into here. I also want to show you one other thing. When you're in this field editor, you don't have to necessarily go back out. Let's say you click leads and you're like, oh, shoot, I actually meant to go into accounts. I can just switch that right from here. And I also have my rename button in here as well. So I don't have to do that on the outside. I can rename that again inside the editor. So I just want to show you that here's that demo field that I added. And say I wanted to have that down here in my description for whatever reason, I just can click and drag that down once after the field's been created, and then just save that. Okay, so that is pretty much it. Come back in. So that is Oh, there we go. So that is the new customization user interface. And like I said, huge improvement over the way it used to be. Don't mind my cat back there. Huge improvement over the way it used to be. It used to be just very cumbersome having to bounce in and out of the layout editor if you needed to make a modification to a field. So now everything's all in one place. You can get to everything, and it's just so much easier. So I hope you found this useful. I see that we have no questions, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And thank you for watching. Even if you're watching the recorded version, thank you for watching. And just know that we do these videos each month. We have 2 for Zoho, this What's New, where we try to highlight something new in the product that's been a recent upgrade. Or we also provide tips and tricks each month. So we usually do 3 tips relative to using Zoho CRM or one of its related products. This month we are doing a couple tips related to reports. So if you're interested in learning more about reports, tune in next week for that webinar. All right, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you later. I am signing out. Shoot. Oh my goodness.